right now. A breaking news alert from News 9 WAOW.
Breaking news this morning, police apprehended an armed suspect in Wisconsin Rapids after reports of gunshots and a car chase. News 9's Jimmy Sadowski has been following this all morning long. He is live right now with quite a bit of new information. And Jimmy, when you and I were on the phone earlier this morning, we actually heard some of those gunshots.
Yeah, that's right, Jake. And the big breaking news right now is the suspect is in custody and is seeking medical attention. Now, I'm in the area of 8th Street and Peach Street. They said they actually got him after they found him with a drone on a rooftop of a home on 9th and Grape Street. And when I got to this area, like you said, I heard the sound of gunshots. That was the sound of the suspect firing on officers, then officers firing back and eventually hitting the suspect. Then a fire truck and 2 ambulances were escorted through the perimeter by a squad car. There's no continued risk to the public right now, but they're saying stay away from the area because it is an active crime scene. I've been talking to Sheriff Becker all morning, and the new details are it started as a response to a domestic disturbance in another part of the city. Then it led to a police chase where the suspect drove off and started firing at them. Then he went on foot and they set up this perimeter. Again, it's an ongoing investigation, and once we get more details, we'll give them to you. Back to you.
Good morning, Jimmy. Are you getting ready to take off there?
Not taking off today, but I did yesterday, Sadie, to get a preview of what this is going to be like for veterans today at the WAPACA Dream Flights. And I got to say, personally, it was an experience like nothing else. When you're up in the clouds, you never really want to come down. I've flown in commercial airlines and good at the airport, but flying out in the elements, that was special. And it's even more special for the 80-plus-year-old veterans that get to go up in them.
This is something they thought they would never do again. And so here they are. You know, they've gotten out of their wheelchair or they've put their walker aside or whatever, and now they're in an open cockpit biplane flying around the countryside.
That's Daryl, the pilot who flew me and a handful of veterans yesterday. He says they may have some pre-flight jitters, but once they're in the plane, they're excited. One vet I overheard tell his family, "Oh, I'm ready." And then there's Dory, who helps organize the local Dream Flights. She's happy to serve those who've served us.
I just think it's an underserved population right now, and anything to make them feel special and to give them a thank you back, that's my passion. That's why I do it.
And the bird's eye views of Stevens Point and WAPACA are extra special this year because prior to the events, Dory held golf outings that raised money to fully cover the $250 fee each veteran and their families would have had to pay. Needless to say, WAPACA vets are in for a treat today. If you do choose to head down to WAPACA today, Dory tells me it's completely free, and there's nothing like seeing the smiles this puts on veterans' faces. Back to you. Good morning, Sadie. The way Sheriff Becker describes it to me, compared to what they had when we last stopped by back in December, the new Wood County Jail actually looks like a jail now. Much of the groundwork has been laid for the new Wood County Jail. Here you see a crew working on a machine for the area where vehicles will go. All the major rooms have been built. The next few months are all about getting the technology and the items that go in the rooms moved in. Sheriff Sean Becker says a major perk is that they have more areas for programming that can help inmates have better lives when they're released.
Our current facility has one room, a library that's not very big, and it's always in use. In fact, we have to turn people away that want to come in and help provide some inmate programming, whether it's through a church service or something in dealing with addiction or something on the mental health side of things.
Becker says the new jail has been in the works for about 20 years. It was just a matter of getting the county to finance it. Now, they can house more than double the number of people the old jail could at 315. Extra space also makes things easier and safer for maintenance too, because now, unlike the old facility, they don't have to go through tight crawl spaces.
The current facility that we're building right now, or the new facility, I'm sorry, all has all the maintenance items or plumbing, electrical is all accessible to maintenance to fix something when needed.
The facility is better tailored to look out for incarcerated people's health.
A lot of the cell blocks, the ventilation isn't shared amongst other cell blocks. So if there is an inmate that is sick, that air, the circulation of the air is not going to be shared with throughout the facility.
It should be an overall improvement for the inmates and people from the Sheriff's Department and elsewhere that work in the jail. Becker says the target for the jail to be finished is October, and if that happens, it should be open sometime in either January or February. Live in the newsroom, Jimmy Sadowski, News 9. WAOW. Good morning, Jake. I'm live here outside of Weston Municipal Center. In roughly a half hour, polls are going to open, and when they do, I have some tips so you're prepared. First of all, let's get into the races you're going to see on today's ballot. Now, just as a quick reminder, today is the partisan primary, so be sure to mark the party you're voting in on your ballot, or it could get tossed out. At the U.S. Senate level in Wisconsin, there's the Republican primary with Eric Hovde, Charles E. Barman, and Rajini Ravindran. Then there's the Democratic primary for the House of Representatives with Elsa Ray Duransow and Kyle Kilborn running. And there are several races for state assembly we'll be following, including ones in Antigo, Abbotsford, Marshfield, and Wausau. 2 state constitutional amendment questions are also on the ballot. A yes on the first one would add an amendment prohibiting the legislature from delegating its power to appropriate money. A yes on the second one would mean the governor now has to get legislative approval with a joint resolution before expending federal funds appropriated to the state. A no on either would mean those amendments aren't added. As to what you need to have with you today, if you're already registered, make sure to bring an acceptable photo ID to your polling place. That includes Wisconsin driver's licenses, state ID cards, military IDs, and passports. If you haven't registered, you can do that today, but you need a proof of residence along with a valid photo ID. So something like a utility bill or even a paycheck could work as that proof. They must be current and have the voter's name on it. And as long as you're in line by 8 p.m. with the proper ID, you'll be able to vote today. And shortly after the polls close, you'll start to see results at the bottom of your screen. And for full results, those will be on your News 9 at 10. Back to you. Good morning, Sadie. Like you said, Minocqua is a destination, and with beautiful sites like these ones right here, and even with a not-so-good winter tourism season because of the mild winter, I've been told they definitely rebounded this summer, and that's expected to continue into this weekend. I tried to get a numbers breakdown on how many people have visited Minocqua this summer. The Let's Minocqua Visitors Bureau president told me that won't be available until after Labor Day, but they've seen a lot of tourists. Those tourists have a lot to do with lakes, trails, and a lot of different local shops to check out. And I actually found out a Labor Day tourist from Toma was there who also works in Chicago. He came up to cool off.
Lakes and the beautiful oxygen here, it's pure air, lots of lake, the very quiet town, relaxing. So normally you don't get that in Chicago.
Mahesh also says he plans on doing a bit of fishing and meeting up with friends. And the tourism doesn't stop after the summer. In the fall, many flock to see the foliage, some of which is already forming. Speaking of fall, Let's Minocqua told me that Beefarama is expected to be a big draw again this year. Coming up in the next half hour, you'll get to hear from their president. Back to you guys. Good morning, Jake. If you like to snack on some beef jerky like this, I've got some news you might not want to hear. Eating about 2 servings of processed red meat a week can increase your risk of dementia by almost 15%. The meats that pose a risk essentially are ones that are modified and aren't in their original form. They're called ultra-processed red meats, so meats like hot dogs, deli meats, and sausages. This was a study of over 130,000 people over 4 decades, so they say the results are viable, especially as you might be firing up the grill this Labor Day weekend. If you could find an alternative to 1 serving of the standard hot dog or sausage, it could pay dividends. Here's what might work.
Some sort of plant-based protein like nuts or legumes, beans, peas, or even a soy-based protein, they'd be able to reduce their dementia risk by 20%, which is huge.
If you eat unprocessed red meat like a burger, steak, or pork chops, you're in the clear. researchers did not find an association while studying those. Processed red meat also can lead to an increased risk of cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. So if you can, moderation's key. Back to you guys. Good morning, Sadie. Well, this is a Catholic school. A big emphasis is on going back to the basics. There hasn't been a classical school for years in the Wausau area, but now there is. A major part of the curriculum is religion. Being classical means more than that, though. There's no technology other than the occasional CD player. That's by design. It's to help kids focus more on reading, writing, and arithmetic. When I walked into a classroom, they were working on how to read graphs and addition. There's a lot of memorization, too, which can help down the road.
I still remember poems that I learned in 4th grade, and it's a joy to be able to share that with other people still to this day. So it helps the brain, and it's also for the sake of knowledge, for the sake of loving and learning these different texts.
Another part of what the kids are taught is lessons in character and how to be a good, respectful person. This is also a big change for the kids, too, because, like I said, for years there hasn't been a classical school in the area, so it's all new to them, and they're adapting. But the staff says they're adapting well. Coming up, you'll get to hear from their new headmaster.